Welcome back to Out and About Today. I'm Pam Wheeler. Our next guest specializes in treating LGBTQ youth and couples at historic Franklin Wellness. She's certified in traumatic-focused cognitive behavioral therapy and is here with some somber information on suicide in our community. We welcome Megan Graf Thomas to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here, and I'll just caution our viewers, we were just laughing it up about Halloween, but it's important that we cover this topic because it affects our community so much. Before we get to that, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to grad school at Trevecca Nazarene University and have a master's in counseling psychology. And as you said, I currently work in Franklin, Tennessee under the supervision of Trey Holt, who's an LPC, MHSP, and he's awesome.
Oh, that's a nice plug for Trey. And I think it's important for our viewers to know that you're a lesbian, you're married, you're gonna have a baby.
I am.
Well, I mean, I would just think that you're relatable when you talk about talking to LGBT folks.
Yeah.
So why do you focus on LGBT issues, I guess is a question. And are you and your group unique in that service?
Well, I think personally, any counselor should focus on the LGBT community because there is such a need. We just believe acceptance is everything. As far as other providers, there are other providers, but unfortunately I have heard that it can be difficult to weed out through some other counselors that may not be as accepting.
Right, I think that's exactly right. And we're having this discussion in part because last month was Suicide Prevention Month. Mm-hmm. Give us some feedback on the facts related to suicide, specifically in the gay community.
Yeah, so lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth, compared to their straight peers, have 29% of them have said they attempted suicide in the past year, compared to only 6% of the heterosexual youth.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big gap. And something that I found really staggering, 40% of transgender adults said that they have made a suicide attempt prior to the age of 25. And those are really big numbers.
Oh, they're alarming numbers. So what does the research show? And I don't want this to seem silly, but the why helps us understand. So what are some of the whys?
Yeah, bullying, sexual harassment, and of course rejection from families are huge whys.
Right.
There was a study done and it said the rate goes up by, I think, 8 times more for a suicide attempt if you've been rejected from your family. And that can be perceived rejection as well.
Right. Well, we were just talking in last week's show about coming out. And, you know, we're easily sitting on the couch encouraging people to come out. But, you know, the idea that, and maybe even knowing you're going to get rejected just stops that idea that you could. So when we talk about prevention, because obviously that's the conversation we need to have, what should we be what are the signs, what are the risk factors to help us prevent suicide in our community and at large, of course?
Yeah, so if we see someone in our community, family, friends, that has any of the following feelings, those are kind of warning signs. So irritability, more so than usual, hopelessness, just kind of isolating oneself. And then there's also the sayings of, I'll miss you, or kind of shortening the future. An increase of drug or alcohol use is also a huge sign. So be looking out for those things.
So you see the sign, and I know age and your relationship to the person can make a difference in how you're going to answer this, but if you see the sign, what do you do?
Yeah, I think the first step is we have a conversation with that person. Hey, how are you doing? I've been noticing A, B, and C. What's going on with you? If you have a good relationship with that person, they may feel comfortable going to you rather than calling a counselor or getting on a crisis line. And then you can help them go to that next step.
What's your obligation if it's a minor? If it's...
That's a good question.
Yeah.
To call a crisis line or to get them to an ER to be evaluated would be what I would suggest.
What are some of our local resources?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead
Sorry.
with that. No, it's okay.
Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network is an awesome resource. They are researching a lot, and they have they divvy things up between different demographics, and they have pamphlets specific to our community as well, which is awesome. And they have crisis lines. And there's a new thing, which I think is really great for young people, especially, and even I'm not that young, but even for me, there's a texting crisis line, and it's 741-741, which is also easy to remember.
Right.
And you can text it and just say, hey, I need help. And within 5 minutes, there's a crisis counselor texting you back. And I just think that's such an awesome resource.
Right, and is that only geared towards youth?
No,
it's
for everyone.
So 741-741. And we're down to 1 minute, so I want to leave folks with some resources and where to go. So what are some websites, or I want you to leave with your contact information. Anybody in crisis, 741-741, I want to say that over and over again, but
Yeah.
What else can you give our viewers?
TSPN.org is the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, and if you go there, you will find a plethora of resources to go to. A national website that I really love and is very informative is the Trevor Project.
Yes.
Which I'm sure you guys have spotlighted that before.
We have, so let's remember that Trevor Project. And we're already out of time, I'm sorry. I hope you come back because you have a lot of stories to tell just with that baby.
Thanks.
And that's all the time we have for tonight. We'll see you next week on Out and About Today.